the next two follow it, I want to discuss in detail the techniques I use personally to get out of body. I could do this all as one video, but it might be a little bit too long, so I've decided just to split it into three parts, specific parts, and that'll make it easier to watch, and it makes it easier for me to edit. So in this part one, I'm going to discuss primarily lucid dreaming and the history of my lucid dreaming experiences and which techniques I've applied and when I've applied them. In part two, I'm going to discuss the technique more in detail that I used when I got my first real out-of-body experience. And in part three, I want to share more in depth the technique I prefer to use, the one I've developed myself, and I think, I believe, holds the key to the sort of holy grail of out of body, of getting out of body. So let's start with lucid dreaming first. Okay, I've been having lucid dreams since I was a child. I'm just one of those lucky people who managed to do that. I never really developed it. I never tried to learn any techniques until really only recently, a year or so ago. I just enjoyed them, and I had enough of them to be able to believe that they were a natural phenomenon. And they started off with me actually when I was a young child, and I think they started to develop as a result of my own need to escape nightmares. Now, I didn't have a lot of nightmares when I was a kid, but all kids have them, so I had them as well. And I experienced also a lot around that time a phenomenon that's known as sleep paralysis. This is when you wake up and you can't move your body, you can't speak, and you feel like there's a heavy weight on top of you, pushing you down or holding you fast, and it's a very, very scary experience if you don't understand what's happening. And as a child, I didn't understand what was happening at all. So, and I couldn't talk to anybody. And this is long before you could look it up on the internet. So there was no way I could understand exactly what's happening. But I used to get these experiences of sleep paralysis and a lot of weird dreams, some really scary, some just weird, because I was a child who really loved to sleep, especially in the afternoons, and I loved to dream. I used to, one of my greatest activities, one of my most enjoyable activities was to lie on the couch in the middle of the day with a short story book, usually science fiction short stories, and that would trigger my imagination and then fall asleep and have these amazing dreams. And I loved that dream world. I preferred it actually to my normal life. So I had lively dreams anyway, and some of them were very, very scary, and when they're combined with the sleep paralysis, then they are really nightmarish. And I obviously didn't enjoy waking up from these experiences, so I wanted to find out if there was a way I could wake myself up. And I found that way pretty much by accident, actually, while in a nightmare. So let me tell you about that. I was about 10 years old, and I think it was early evening, something. It wasn't, it wasn't bedtime. So I was sleeping in the day, and I found myself in the hallway of my house where I grew up, and it was quite dark, but on one of the walls, in the shadows of one of the walls, was a creature, an entity, dark, tall, scary entity, and it grabbed me in passing, and it held on to me. It wrapped its arms around me and squeezed, and I was clemmed in its arms. And it was so stifling, so smothering, and so scary. I really, really needed to get out of this, and I could not fight it. It was much too strong. So for some reason I got the idea that the only way to wake up from this, to escape this, would be to do something drastic like biting its face, which is the only thing I could do because it was only my head that was free. So I did this. I bit its face, I think its nose, and I bit really hard, and I held on until it loosened its grip. And then I woke up. And I didn't wake up scared. I woke up with a sort of feeling of relief and thought, I just battled some dark entity in my dream and I won. And as a 10-year-old, this was amazing. And I thought, well, I'm not scared of any other situation, any more nightmare situations in my dreams. And that was also the first time I realized that I was actually in a dream and I could wake up from it. Since then, I don't think I ever had many nightmares anymore. And I utilized that technique then more to get me out of frustrating dreams and not scary dreams. And everybody has frustrating dreams, you know these, when you need to get somewhere and you can't find your way there, or you're clambering over all sorts of idiotic obstacles and squeezing through little holes to try to get from one place to another. And it's only when you wake up and you think, what was I doing, you know? Those sort of frustrations, those sort of situations that pop up in dreams quite regularly for people, I use this technique of waking myself up and developed it more and more so that I could instantly wake up when it got too much. And when I look back, actually that should have been a way to develop my lucid dreaming, and instead of waking up, just change the situation and go on and have a better dream. But I didn't, because I didn't really know about the phenomena of lucid dreaming and what you could actually do with it. I thought you just stayed within the dream itself. And I could fly in these dreams as well. I developed that understanding that you can do certain things in dreams that you can't do it in real life, but still it was not a world I really researched. Another experience I had, which is interesting to tell just because it's quite funny, was also in my teens, and it was probably the last nightmare, classical nightmare I ever had, because I found myself in this old castle, dark castle, Transylvanian castle, alone in this room, in this tower, and there was a window and it overlooked the sea, the raging sea and rocks below, and there was no escape except by the one door. But while I was lying in bed, I heard someone come up the stairs, and I knew that this was Nosferatu, that creepiest of all vampires, and I knew he was coming up to my room to suck my blood. And I became quite scared, and I'm a teenager around about this time, so it must have been really scary. But I lay there while I heard the steps coming closer and closer and closer, and I was thinking, how am I going to get out of this? And I tried waking myself up, and I didn't wake up. So I had something else to do. I had to find something else to do, because this is almost like a test. And just before the door opened and this monster walked in, I realised that all I have to do is be bigger than him, and he can't harm me. Which is what I did. I stepped out of bed and I made myself so big that my head touched the ceiling. And when Nosferatu actually came into the room, he was about this high to me, and totally unscary, of course. And he knew it as well. He looked at me, he looked over me, and he's thinking, oh dear, I'm not going to be able to bite this guy. And I woke up actually laughing, because this was so funny. And also amusing to be able to transform a scary situation when you've got enough awareness to know where you are. So waking up out of dreams intentionally developed into a knowledge and a practice of lucid dreaming. Although most of the dreams I've had, the lucid dreams I've had throughout my life, have always been spontaneous, and I've used them actually only for flying. Who doesn't love to fly? It was really only about 2 years ago that I wanted to develop this as a practice and understand it a little bit more. And I think that came because I was reading a lot about consciousness online, and understanding the reality, the essence of reality as consciousness, and thought and imagination. And I've been reading about people's experiences with lucid dreaming. So the interest was growing in me to understand, to practice this a little bit more. And I already knew instinctively that it had a lot to do with intent. I didn't know any special techniques 2 years ago. I didn't know any special techniques, but I did know that you could induce a lucid dream just by intent. And that meant going to bed and saying, tonight I'm going to have a lucid dream, tonight I'm going to have a lucid dream. And when I've tried this in the past, it usually worked, but only after about 3 days of doing this on the run. So three nights before going to bed, before going to sleep, I would chant this intention that I'm going to have a lucid dream. And it's quite strange to see that pattern, that it took 3 nights for that intention to work. My brother at this time was also very, very keen on learning and developing his lucid dreaming abilities. So we discussed this a lot as well. And I found this one technique that I needed to try, that I thought was interesting enough to try. And this is what's known as the hand technique, and this is one of the most known techniques for inducing lucid dreams. I can't remember who I learned it off now. One of the well-known practitioners. I can't remember his name, but it had a whole preparation before you actually make any intent, and I'll explain that situation now, that preparation sequence. It involved lying on your back before sleep, counting to 21, and with 21 breaths, and really being aware of those 21 breaths. And after you've done that 21, you turn over onto your right hand side. It was very crucial that it was the right hand side. And you visualize, or you bring your awareness to your throat chakra and visualize a 4-petaled red lotus bloom. And while you're visualizing that, you say to yourself over and over again, tonight I'm going to dream and I'll see my hands in my dreams and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight I will see my hands in my dreams and realize I'm dreaming, and so on and so on and so on until you fall asleep. Quite a long process actually, but I did it, and that first night I did it, I found myself in a dream situation in a cafe with a friend of mine, and suddenly my hands popped up in front of my face, and that was it. I knew I was dreaming. And then I even said to my friend, hey, I've seen my hands, I'm dreaming. I noticed my hands had 7 fingers, so it was obvious that wasn't real life. So I just went about the rest of the dream actually doing experiments, floating, levitating experiments, and altering things within the dream, putting on a show actually for the other people in the cafe. It was quite strange and quite amusing to do. So that was the first technique I ever used, the hand technique. I haven't used it since because it's never worked for me since. I can't explain why. Some techniques work once, some techniques work regularly, and it depends on the person. It depends probably more on the intent, with the feeling of intent rather, combined with the expression of intent, which is the mantra of tonight I'm going to dream and see my hands. You can say that 1,000 times, and if you don't really have the intent to back it up, you're not going to see your hands. Funnily enough, I've actually had more lucid dreams that came about because I saw feet instead of hands. One that I remember, I was with a girl and I looked down at my feet and I didn't have any. And I thought that was puzzling. But as I turned a little bit, they came into view. And I turned back and they disappeared, and I turned again and they came into view. And I did this a few times before it struck me that, hey, this must be a dream. And another more gruesome time was when I dreamt I was in a hotel room with my brother and his girlfriend, and I was lying on a bed. It was a very small room, and on the end of the bed there was a wall with a bathroom sink, and my brother was standing at the sink washing his feet in the sink, just standing on one leg, the other leg is up in the sink, and he's got the tap on and everything. And when I looked down at the floor, I realised he wasn't washing his feet because his feet were on the floor next to him, cut off at the ankle and all bloody, and he was actually watching the stumps of his legs in the sink. This is so gruesome, I don't know what brought this on, I really don't, but it was so absurd as well that I could not escape the fact that it was a dream. And I actually said to my brother in the dream, and I made him aware of the fact of what he's doing. I said, when is it? In what situation would you find yourself washing the stumps of your legs in the sink with your cut-off feet on the floor next to you? And he looked at me, and he looked at his stumps, and he looked at his feet, and he looked at me again, and he was totally fazed, till I answered it for myself, and I said, in a dream. And his face lit up. I thought, okay, if we're dreaming, we can fly. And he went flying up to the ceiling, levitating. It wasn't that high ceiling. And I did the same, and his girlfriend's on the bed, going, those two, my God. It was really absurd. But feet can work as a dream sign. And with a lot of lucid dreaming techniques, rely on creating what's known as dream signs. This means that dream signs work as sort of triggers. These are things you see in normal life, but you again set an intent with practice and with repetition that every time you see a certain thing in a dream, you will do a reality check. And you practice this in waking life. Let's say it's hands, or let's say it's a black cat. So every time you see a black cat in the daytime, you will stop and you will do a reality check. And one reality check is to look at your hands, and you can wave them about, count the fingers, and if everything's fine, you can rub them together, or you can push it against your palm. And because it seems normal, then you know you're not dreaming. And if you do this often enough, there will come a time in your dream that you will see a black cat, and you've got into the habit of asking this question, am I dreaming, every time you see a black cat? So you see one in your dream, and then you will look at your hands and shake them, and they might have 7 fingers, they might have no fingers. Some change will occur, something that is not normal, and that will trigger the lucidity. If you put your finger against your palm, you can actually push your finger through the palm in a dream, and that will give you the understanding that this is now a dream, and then you can start experiencing the dream as you want it. These dream signs require a lot of daily practice and repetition, being aware all the time of taking the time to stop and question the reality you're in. It's a good technique, my brother does it a lot. I found it's not for me, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just too lazy to do the repetition. But it brings me to a similar practice that has given me some incredible lucid dreams. And this is a sort of intense awareness session. What I did is to go out into the park, or just go for a walk towards the park and back again from my house for about an hour. And in that hour, I would try to be hyper aware of everything around me in the environment. And to do that, I would run an inner commentary, a narration of what I was doing. So I would say, okay, I'm walking now, I'm walking up these steps, I'm turning this corner, I'm following the canal, I can see 5 swans on the canal, and I'm moving over this white bridge, and the sun's just come through the clouds and I can see on the corner of the street a street sign, and I've never seen street signs in my dreams, so I'll make a point of that. And I'm coming up to the park, I'm going into the park, I can see this row of trees here and a row of trees here, and this person's just past me jogging with a purple t-shirt on, and there's a woman there pushing a pram with 2 babies in it, and there's somebody walking a little dog and somebody walking a big dog, and the leaves are falling off the trees, and I can hear the sound of the fountain in the distance and the chattering of people, and somebody's coming up behind me with a scooter, and so on and so on and so on. But really trying to be aware of everything that you would just let pass by your awareness. Most people, or most times even I go for a walk in the park, I'm not really busy with what's in the park. I'm seeing it, I'm aware of it all, but not really bringing my awareness to it. I'm more busy with what's going on in my head, my own thoughts and everything. So I'm not really consciously aware of everything that's happening. When you actually pay more attention like that for an intense period of time, that has an effect on your dreaming awareness. And the first time I did this worked amazing for me, because I went to sleep at night and I was almost instantly aware. And that night I dreamt for the first time that I saw street signs, for one, something that had never been in my dreams, or I'd never noticed in my dreams. I noticed them, and of course I have to be aware that I'm dreaming then, because I said to myself, oh, there's a dream sign in my dream. And also a part of that dream was nighttime, and I'd never dreamt of nighttime in my dream, so that became another dream sign. And there were so many dream signs that in that dream that this 1 hour intense period of awareness had worked perfectly. But it was just one of these awareness sessions that brought me closer actually to my interest in out-of-body experiences. Because I hadn't had an out-of-body, a classical out-of-body experience. It was all lucid dreaming till that point in time. But one of these awareness sessions had actually put me in a situation, a dream situation, where I was watching a group of people having lessons from an instructor and learning how to project out of body. So I listened in, and I listened into the technique that they were using. And I followed it through myself. And I found myself in a different place, already projected. And tried it again from there. I went to a different place. One place was Paris, one place was London. Another place I came back to was Holland, but in a different time. I think I'd skipped 200 years into the past, judging by the horse and carriages on the dirt roads instead of cars, and the clothing of people walking around. It was probably my first out-of-body experience, and it came from practicing out-of-body technique within a lucid dream. And that came by doing awareness sessions while walking. Intense, conscious awareness. One last lucid dreaming technique I discovered not long ago, by accident, which I've also employed since then a few times, but you have to catch the right moment, is to go back into a dream immediately after waking from it. You have to catch this right at the moment. You have to be really sharp and alert when you wake up, a lot of the times when you wake up out of sleep, you've already finished dreaming. And you wake up or you drift out slowly and you slumber about and open your eyes or move, whatever, and you've already lost that connection. But if you wake up and you have that alertness, think, oh, I'm just woken up out of a dream, I'm going back in. And you say it that fast and you intend it that fast, you can go straight back in. It doesn't matter if that was a lucid dream or not, if it was a normal dream. But once you go back in, because you've intended to go back in, you take all your awareness with you and you are instantly lucid. I did this a little while back and I dreamt I was in a cafe, a busy cafe, and I woke up, went straight back in, and I'm in that cafe, but this time with full awareness. Another example of this one was, I was lucid, actually. I was lucid in this other dream where I was playing host on a stage to a couple who were going to do a song for an audience, and I became lucid on the stage, maybe through fear, maybe through nervousness, I don't know, but I became lucid and I introduced the band. I didn't realise that, I didn't know the name of the band, but because I was lucid, I knew that it didn't matter. I could make up a name and nobody would know any different, so I made up a name and then stepped up the stage and woke up. But I wasn't ready to finish that dream. So I immediately went back in and I was immediately right back to the spot where I'd woken up. So I watched a bit of the concert and then went off to the bar, bought myself a beer and enjoyed the rest of the dream. So that is actually one of the easiest ways to have a lucid dream, is to wake up from a normal dream and go straight back in. But, as I said, you have to catch that crucial moment. It has to be immediate on waking. And that's not always guaranteed. So that was that's my lucid dreaming experiences and the techniques I've used. I don't actually practice any techniques for lucid dreaming anymore because I am more busy with out-of-body techniques and out-of-body practice. And the lucid dreams I get now are usually in combination with out-of-body experiences, or it will start as a lucid dream and I will move from there into an out-of-body experience. My goal is to have the more awareness of an out-of-body experience, and if I find myself in a lucid dream now, which can happen spontaneously, which can happen because I've got the intent to have an out-of-body experience, but they come frequent enough and I don't do any special techniques just for lucid dreaming. And really I don't see any difference in the practice or in the experience itself. A lucid dream is already out of body in my interpretation. Normal dreaming is, but that's another story. So lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences are all part of the same thing for me, so I only have to direct myself in one direction, and the lucid dream parts, they come as extra gifts on top. As I said, that's it. That's all I can tell you about lucid dreaming. There's hundreds of techniques out there to induce lucid dreams. I suggest you look them all up. I can't tell you about them all because I've never used them all, I've never tried them all. I just tried what I've already just told you. So I'm going to close it here. In the next video I'll talk about the OBE technique I used to get my first experience out of body. and break that down for you so you understand exactly what that involves. It's really quite simple. And in the third one, my favourite technique. But that's all for this one, for this video, so I'll see you in the next. Bye bye.